Welcome to Global Grit Conversations, where resilience, leadership, and impact meet across borders. I'm Pamela Campagna, Global Advisor, Professor, and founder of Blue Sage Consulting. Each episode features candid conversations with leaders, builders, and thinkers from around the world who share the moments that tested their resilience and the insights that shaped who they became. This is Global Grit Conversations. So welcome, Tamara Abdel-Jaber, to the podcast. We're thrilled to have you here. And on this podcast, we talk to people about their personal and professional lives. We talk about challenges and opportunities that they faced and look at different insights and learnings that come from those. So welcome, and we're very much excited to hear what you have to say about a number of topics. So starting with the first one, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what got you started in the business world.
Why I started with a business rather than what everyone else in my family did, being a professional or a civil servant. I think for me, that was like an eye-opener that I was choosing a different path.
And what was the business that?
It was a consulting firm, a boutique consulting firm that I started in 2002.
And we'll talk about that in a second, but I recall that your early career was as an accountant. And how did you go from accounting to starting a regional consulting firm?
I'd like to say that it was a strategic move.
I like
even
that.
At that
you
young
can go
age.
with that one.
So my school friends reminded me a few years ago that even during my school days, I always talked about starting my business. All right. So, and when it came time to choose my major at university, I thought that would be something that I would like to do, which meant that I need to have the right base. And having the right base meant studying business, finance, accounting, something that I always felt that entrepreneurs struggled with. And that's why I did accounting and finance, became a CPA, which led me to my short corporate career. And I got tired of being a bean counter. I had set a target for myself to do that for 5 years, but then I would be ready by then to start my first company. And this is exactly what happened. 5 years, 2 weeks to the date.
So 5 years of misery, or maybe growing misery.
It wasn't misery. I learned a lot. I was lucky that I worked in a company or a group of companies. So there was a lot of diversity. There was a lot of change, different markets, different technologies, different topics, investing in new companies, getting out of investments, getting into business valuations, restructuring. So it really led me to what I wanted to do with my first company. So it wasn't the boring bean counting type of work. There was a big chunk of that, but I still had I was able to spice it up with other more fun stuff.
That's great. So in a lot of ways, you started to build your skills up.
Absolutely.
While you had the opportunity to do so.
Exactly. And this is where, during that period, was when I read Jim Collins's book. That for me was still is one of my favorite business books, Good to Great. And that's where I learned the importance of finding your own personal competitive advantage. So that's the intersection of what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what you can make money out of. And that led me to what I wanted to do in my first firm.
That's wonderful. And was there any guidance or mentorship that you sought during the time?
That was a big part of my journey, actually. I had a mentor very early on in my career, and he later became my first co-founder. He continued to be my mentor for quite some time. And then I took part in several mentorship programs in Jordan, in the US. And that's why I've always been a big believer of the importance of mentorship. And I'd like to say that I'm giving back now and mentoring a lot of new founders and especially women across the region. So that's because I believe in it.
Wonderful. So you went from establishing a consulting firm, Palma Consulting, Yes. And so after Palma Consulting, you had some opportunities that presented themselves. I recall speaking to you in 2018, maybe it
Yeah,
was
2018, 2019.
2019, and he said, I'm doing this, and it's fulfilling. Yet there's so many other things that can be done here in the region. And so, what happened after that?
So even like throughout the Palma Consulting journey, I had the opportunity to reinvent the business and reinvent myself several times. So like whether it's getting into new geographies or addressing new topics in the consulting practice, or even like joining boards and becoming part of other organizations. And at one point, I felt that I was repeating myself, even with the consulting firm. And I needed a new challenge. I had started a few years before 2018, 2019, with supporting more women business owners as part of paying forward. And that's something that I learned in a mentorship program that I took part in the US, 2009. The years.
I was going to say,
wow.
they slipped by, huh?
Wow. So anyway, that was like one big takeaway from that program, the importance of paying forward. And I come from a family where like all of the women around me were working moms. Okay, my mom, my aunts, everyone I knew. But very few owned their own businesses. And at the same time, when I started looking at the numbers in Jordan and the region, I saw that there's this huge gender gap that women are facing, whether it's in their economic participation, it's in the employment numbers, etc. So I started looking at ways to help address some of that problem. I joined the Business and Professional Women's Association's board for 2 terms. I tried to do more towards mentoring and supporting women business owners that I came across. But then in 2017, I started together with someone who became a co-founder. We started these informal sessions where we invited women to our homes and had them pitch their businesses to a bunch of other women, just to give them some insights, give them some ideas on how they can grow their business, help them build their networks, etc. That became a network of 45,000 women across the region.
Wow.
Both professionals and business owners. And that really opened our eyes to all the gaps that are out there, the challenges that women were facing. Of course, there were a lot of challenges related to lack of structured mentorship programs, lack of proper networks, effective networks, lack of a lot of learning opportunities. But of course, one of the starking gaps was the lack of financing, and financing that's particularly understanding towards what those women are looking for throughout their different steps of their journeys. And we started dreaming of creating the region's first gender lens investment fund. And this is where Amam Ventures came about. It was a beautiful journey. I'd like to say that we did a lot. We trained close to 1,000 women business owners.
Wow.
Through the different stages from ideation going on to investment readiness. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to the next stage of funding because it was something that was too new for the region. We decided to call it quits and go back to mentoring women business owners across the region informally for now, until I figure out what the next step in the journey is.
Thank you for sharing a bit of that background. And I guess I wonder, when Amam Ventures and Action for Growth, which was the program I was involved in several years ago with you, when that started, there was a clear set of areas where there were skills that were needed by female entrepreneurs. And I'm wondering, if you fast forward 5 years now, do you see any change, any difference in?
I'd like to say that we had an impact, but that impact was limited to Jordan and Egypt, Palestine, maybe a bit in Saudi, the countries where we tried to make a difference. And again, we were just one team that was trying to change an entire region. So the challenges are still there, the gaps are still there. What I see these days is that there's more conscious effort by governments, NGOs, international NGOs, etc., on supporting women employees, so trying to change the numbers for women participation in the workforce. But I still believe that the same gaps for women business owners and women entrepreneurs still persist, to be honest.
So getting women into the workforce as opposed to encouraging women to start their own businesses.
Exactly. It's still, and I honestly believe that the challenges are twofold. One is the ecosystem and the structural gaps that are out there, but there are also challenges with the women themselves. For a lot of the women that I talk to these days, I still see that many of them see their business as something that's nice to have, although they need that economic support that comes from the business. It's just that they still lack the focus to build and grow their business. They're happy being on their own or maybe having a very small team. And that means that even if there are opportunities out there for them to access networks, to get more financing, they're not getting to the stage where they can tap into these opportunities. So the gaps are still there, unfortunately.
And how much of that do you think is due to the types of businesses? Are they hobby businesses, or are they true potential long-term growth businesses? Is it a mix?
I would say it's a mix. I'm seeing a lot of the hobby businesses, of course, and I'm not seeing a lot of them growing. But the other ones on the other side of the scale are very interesting ones. Some of them are getting support and are growing, whether they're in agri-tech, health tech, ed tech, a lot of other fields.
All
I
tech.
see that
It sounds like all
because
tech.
I feel that tech is a big enabler, and entrepreneurs are finally looking at ways to garner tech to make their journey more feasible. To help their businesses grow faster. So I believe that they have to take that opportunity, otherwise they lag behind.
Is there any regional, do you see any regional distinct benefit in terms of the entrepreneurship ecosystem? Is there any one area that you think is a real advantage?
One area, as in one industry or one field, not really.
Yeah.
I see that there are geographical disparities or differences. This ecosystem is like very heavily supported in Saudi. That's why you see a lot of programs, a huge number of startups. The valuations for pre-seed businesses are really, really big. A lot of funding is going into the ecosystems. Funds, investment funds, a lot of them are coming up every day. Whereas in other parts of the region, you see things are more, the growth is more modest. Although you see healthy growth in an ecosystem like Jordan's, there's a lot of things that are happening, but it's still slower than what we see in Saudi, for instance.
Do you think any of the growth from Saudi is siphoning off potential from Jordan, or is
some is trickling into Jordan because Saudi is an important market for Jordanian entrepreneurs, but also the reverse is happening because Saudi's ecosystem is attracting entrepreneurs from all over the world, including Jordanians. So some Jordanians, once they reach that stage where they can afford to set up shop in Saudi, are doing so, maybe keeping their kitchen or their back office in Jordan,
right?
But they do look at Saudi as the next frontier for their business.
So within the region and then outside of the region as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very competitive space, very interesting to understand and see the dynamics in the different with the different pieces across the region. focused on business transformation and strategy execution, worked across the MENA region. It took me to very interesting places like Libya, Sudan, Yemen. Did a lot of work in Saudi when it was really hard for women to get there. So yeah, I saw how like the whole region has been changing over the past few years, especially Saudi. I remember when I first started doing business in Saudi, I couldn't get a visa as a single female under the age of 35 to travel to Saudi and talk to my clients or deliver consulting services. So I had to do it remotely and make put my male colleagues to use for the Saudi market. That changed some 15 years ago, even less. And it has been dramatic changes since. I was there last year. The Saudi women are absolutely amazing. So it's like they've used all this time to educate themselves, to practice and hone their leadership skills and talents. And now that they're given the opportunity, you see some amazing women out there. And the whole system, the whole ecosystem, the country is very welcoming and open for women, starting with first allowing women to drive, which was a big change for Saudi, but then getting to the phase now where you see a lot of women owning their businesses, a lot of investor networks for women, accelerators and incubators. You see lots of women in leadership positions across the country. So it's been amazing. And as a female traveling to Saudi, it's finally comfortable to go there and meet with your clients, meet with your friends, normally like you would do anywhere else.
So you've been doing business in Saudi for over a decade, right?
Much longer than that.
I'm not
mentioning years.
Leave it at over the decade, over a decade. And so if you think 5-10 years, let's say 10 years from now, a decade from now, what would you envision? We'll stay on Saudi for a moment, and then I want your view of the whole region. But what do you envision it looking like in 10 years?
It's hard to say because, like, looking at their Vision 2030, they have so many amazing ambitions. And I see how a lot of people are flocking now to Saudi, very excited about relocating there, when a few years back it was Dubai and Abu Dhabi that everyone wanted to live in.
Right.
So I see Saudi being a go-to destination for setting up businesses, for tourism, culture, and they're working hard toward that vision. And I see their women going places in leadership roles across the country, across the private sector, and hopefully seeing a woman-owned unicorn coming out of Saudi.
Do you think?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yes. Yeah. Any industry, any bets on which industry
not really.
it might be in?
I think they're doing a lot when it comes to fintech, but I can't think of a lot of females in that space. Probably edtech, health tech, and I don't know. No particular industry.
How about cross-regional cooperation? What do you see there in terms of business to business, businesses working together across the MENA region?
There can be more of that, to be honest. So there are a lot of regional efforts, and there are like regional organizations that try to foster such collaborations and relationships. I think as an Arab, I'd like to see us do more of that regional collaboration. But for a startup, for instance, or a business owner in Jordan, then the entire region is something that we consider as our natural market. So those relationships will continue to be there. Yeah. I just hope that we'll get more of them.
So the region as itself could be an opportunity, but every country is just so different.
Absolutely. And that was like one of the very early lessons that I learned and try to talk about, to be honest, in like every event I spoke at since I started Palmer Consulting, because everyone thinks of the Arab region or the MENA region or the Middle East, but this is made up of like different countries with different cultures.
Yes.
We share a language, we share religion, we share history. But again, each country, especially when it comes to business, has a very different culture.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of you as an entrepreneur, as a mentor, as you've worn so many different hats throughout your career, where do you think the greatest need is to kind of help support some of the businesses in the region? Where is the greatest need? Is it?
That's an interesting question. I think making use of existing infrastructure. So yesterday I learned that there's this organization that's based out of Saudi called the Organization of Islamic Countries, OIC.
Mm-hmm.
And it has 57 countries under its umbrella. Each country pitches in annually to support the budget of this organization. And basically, it helps address and challenges that are faced by a particular country, floods in Libya, for instance, a couple of years ago, etc. But this organization is also the umbrella for organizations such as the Islamic Development Bank,
Mm-hmm.
which used to be a client of mine for my consulting business for so many years. I did so much work with the Islamic Development Bank. I never knew until yesterday that we have these structures. And if those structures were put to better use, then these can provide platforms for business owners and entrepreneurs across an even bigger part of the world to collaborate and partner and have access to markets. So I think there's a lot that's there. It's just untapping those and finding out what we can do and better with them and how we can use them more effectively.
So who does that? Who should do that? Is it the organizations? Is it the individual company or entrepreneur?
I think this is where business associations and networks come into play. Advocacy is still nascent, public advocacy, it's still nascent in the region, and understanding the role of the private sector in guiding public policy and guiding governments to basically support the private sector according to the private sector agenda where possible is something that we need to get better at. And I think that this would allow us to make better use of such networks.
You've been doing some work in that area recently, haven't you?
I try working with different organizations on different topics. The other day, I facilitated a very interesting session for UN Women for a new initiative that they have, where they're looking at increasing women employment across the region by 5% by 2030. And that would mean that women's participation in the labor force across the region would go up from 21% as it is now to 26%. So that's sizable for this part of the world. I do take part in a lot of research, a lot of like regional efforts, mentorship programs, etc., trying to pay it forward and give back as well. That's it.
So what's the next big thing?
I haven't figured that out yet. I feel that I've been running and chasing new opportunities for a very long time. And I felt that I owed myself a year to try and learn new things, take a break, do some interesting consulting projects. So going back to my consulting roots, this has been a lot of fun until I figure out what I want my next journey to be.
So now you're a certified management consultant, are you?
Yeah, I've been that for quite some time. I'm still on the board of the International Council for Management Consultants. So yeah.
Yes, and that's where we actually met years ago, the first time. Yes. So looking at the world of consulting, what are some of the trends you see globally?
technology, the use of technology, the use of AI, definitely. The focus on ESG is something that's big. We're hoping that in our next annual conference in a couple of weeks in Shanghai, that we'd be convincing the local institutes that creating a certification in impact management consulting is something that's worth investing in.
What is that? Impact management consulting.
So if you look at the world around you, people are no longer just valuing commercial returns. Everyone is looking to create an impact, whether it's environmental, social, or in terms of governance. So ESG has become a very big thing, especially led by UN's SDGs. And a lot of companies, they want to have that balance between impact and commercial returns. They just don't know how. And they don't know how to measure and report on their impact. So management consultants are very well positioned to help in that space. And for that, we need to help management consultants build frameworks that would help them do that in a more structured approach. So this is what we were pitching.
Wonderful. And so how do you influence, or who do you influence? Who do you influence if you start looking at impact consulting or measuring impact and looking at KPIs?
The starting point would be the management consultants, because again, they'll be advising their clients in a more impactful manner, which I think is important, but also the client organizations, the national consulting institutes, as well as the International Council, are all arms for advocacy in the specific countries, but also across the globe. So I think there's a huge potential for this Institute of Management Consultants or this International Council to play a bigger role in advocating for more impact in the private sector, but also the public sector.
That's very strategic. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there any tie to the ISO 2017?
That was a very interesting accomplishment for the International Council, building our own ISO standard for management consulting. And I think that not many organizations were able to do that. That was a starting point, and I think that it's a good foundation to build on that to cater to expanding the world of management consulting into more topics and more fields.
Yeah, and so the trends, so you see big focus on ESG, on measuring impact. Anything else? AI. So looking at now, there's been the controversy, of course, in AI and all of the sectors, consulting and education, you name it. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for deploying generative AI within consulting?
I believe that analyzing customer needs, customer preferences, analyzing data that's out there is one of the biggest fields. Of course, this is still, again, new, and management consultants are still trying to figure out how they can use AI in management consulting, and the whole ethics question is a big thing that needs to be addressed. Standards are needed. So we'll continue to see some stories pop up every now and then. I think I was reading about one in Australia just this morning. But I believe that because this is a new field, or the combination of AI and management consulting is still new, so we need some time to figure it out. And this is what ICMCI, the International Council, has been busy doing. We had a white paper released a few months back on the topic. I think that was a good starting point.
Right. I think I participated in that one.
Yes, you did.
Now that I'm remembering, yes, sounds familiar. What questions have I not asked that you think would be relevant to what we're talking about? I'll turn the tables on.
I would say, if like what I learned through the journey, what I'd like to, what pieces of advice I'd like to impart to my fellow entrepreneurs.
So Tamara, what are some of the major lessons you've learned in your experience over the past several years?
Yeah, thank you. That was very diplomatic.
I've learned.
I've learned a lot. I always see myself as a constant learner. I never stop learning. Um, I was, people used to call me a nerd, and I proudly held that badge. I'm a bookworm. I love to read, learn new things. And I think that was a big part of my journey, to be honest, because starting as a bean counter and then like right in the back office of a business, and then moving to the front where I'm leading the business, developing client relationships, I really had to put myself out there. And the mentoring part helped, having a mentor, but also I needed to learn a lot of new skills. And there weren't too many entrepreneurial support programs when I started. So I had to learn the old fashioned way, read books and learn by making mistakes. Of course, I'm human, so I continue to do those every now and then. And I think one lesson is that there's no shame in failing. There's no shame in making mistakes. You just need to find the learning out of that mistake and make sure that you don't repeat it.
That's a growth mindset mentality.
Absolutely. I believe that I've always believed that following your passion or finding your passion, if you haven't found it yet, is extremely important. And finding ways to pursue that passion in a way that's meaningful. Having passion in everything that you do and not just with your business. Importance of giving back to your community, to your closer network is also very important. It's very rewarding on a personal level. But again, after so many years in business, you have something that you can give back. You have something to help others along their journey. And that's something that I've been doing a lot of in the past few months. And it's so rewarding and satisfying, to be honest.
And what would you say to somebody? You said putting yourself out there. What would you say to someone who isn't ready, doesn't know how, finds all of these reasons not to? What would you say to that person?
I think taking baby steps is always useful. Just put very specific targets, KPIs, like attending at least one networking event per month, making sure that you meet at least 5 new people per month, reaching out to new connections you make on LinkedIn. And that's one thing that I learned from very early on. Like whenever I meet a new person, we exchange business cards. I make sure that I put in that data into my phone, connect with that person on LinkedIn, maybe drop an email so that I never forget a face and I maintain my relationships. So small things help you really build a network and put yourself out there.
And in networking, it's not about just putting their name in your phone and forgetting about it till you need them, but it's about, as you said, continuing those touch points and staying in front of them in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. So like finding an excuse to connect with a person every now and then just to make sure that you're on their radar, because you never know when the time comes that you can find an opportunity to collaborate. It's not just that you might need that person. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's a give and take, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You mentioned you spoke at a conference recently. You mentioned a few other events. So what are some of the events or programs that you've recently participated in that you think are relevant or people might want to check out?
I think there's a lot of events happening around the impact space, whether it's impact management or creating more impactful businesses or even impact investing. And for me, I particularly enjoy these events. And it's something that I'm trying to spend more time on, to be honest, with my consulting, with my reading. So the events made sense. I feel that anything related to technology combined with any industry is extremely important.
Are they shows or are these private events or what kind of events?
I think sometimes that this part of the world has way too many events. So there's always an event happening, whether it's a conference or an exhibition or just a small networking event. A lot of the business associations in Jordan are very active and have a lot of conferences, learning opportunities. So again, there's a lot of opportunities out there. One important lesson for me was being selective and making sure that you're not just spending your days at conferences.
So being a little more thoughtful about planning if you're going to a conference or going to an event who you want
Exactly.
to meet.
Exactly. Which conference to begin with, and then what are you looking to achieve in that conference? If there's a particular speaker that you want to connect with, this is where you put yourself out there and make sure that you go and meet that person.
So being very targeted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you were to enter the Saudi market today, what would be 3 pieces of advice you would give to someone?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say that mapping out existing networks and identifying the ones that are more useful and important is a good first exercise, just to understand which networks you want to tap into.
And when you say networks, what do you mean?
Again, business associations,
okay.
communities. There's a lot. There are several communities of startup founders in Saudi. So identifying those and basically joining some of them, putting in like a conscious effort to attend networking events is very important. Making sure that you get your first client in Saudi. I think that was lesson 1 for me when making business in Saudi. You need to be very patient and persevere, basically, to get that first client, because for Saudi businesses, they want to see local references. They're not interested to see that you've been successful in Jordan or in the UAE or elsewhere in the region. They want to know that you've succeeded in Saudi, even at a small scale. And again, looking at understanding and appreciating the culture. And that was one thing amazing, that once that I started going more to Saudi, when it became more open to me as a woman business owner, I got to learn and appreciate the Saudi culture, a very rich culture, understanding more of the history, the cultural differences between the different regions has been fascinating. I got to attend my first Saudi wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, my cousin married a Saudi, so
wow.
I wouldn't miss the wedding for the world. And it was fascinating seeing that difference in the cultures.
Right.
Yeah, keeping an open mind and appreciating the different cultures, whether it's in Saudi or elsewhere you go to do business.
It's interesting because oftentimes you think about the insular nature of Saudi for the women that live there, but being a woman that goes into the country working there, it's a different perspective. So
very different.
Yeah.
And I remember I never realized what a big difference it is until my sister, who was living in Saudi a few years back, started doing some consulting work for Palma Consulting when female consultants were finally allowed to work in the country. And her son at the time must have been 4. And like, I remember that he used to come home and his mom would be at her consulting job. And he would be upset because mommies don't work. Okay, looking around him, he didn't see any mommies who worked, maybe in schools or in healthcare, but that's it. So it was an eye-opener again, because you got to see the change and how it's impacting young kids who, like, are innocent and they just say it as it is.
Right.
So it was very interesting.
So culturally, there have been shifts. Are there any other cultural dynamics that have changed? So within the family structure, obviously, so looking at how women as role models have been changing within the family structure. Anything else culturally, or?
I think it's like the way that the entire country is happy about putting their women up front as role models, celebrating them. That never happened before. So seeing that and seeing how capable Saudi women are, they're really impressive. I mentored a few women a couple of years back, and I remember one having a full-time job, having 3 kids. One was a newborn, so she was just coming out of maternity leave, and she had a business on the side that was growing. Like, I remember it grew threefold over 3 years.
Wow.
And she had a very serious corporate job, 9 to 5 plus. So I was very impressed, to be honest, with what women are capable of when they're given the opportunity.
So what sort of support does a woman like this woman, what sort of support structure does she have around her in Saudi?
Definitely childcare, support with childcare, and like taking care of household chores, because that's still a big gap if you compare men to women's contribution to household chores and responsibilities in the household. But again, there are systems. It's not as expensive as in the Western world to get help. The families are close-knit, so it is expected that the grandma and the grandpa would be looking after the kids. Daycares are becoming, there's more daycares coming up across the region. People are realizing that this is one of the structural challenges that women face for a very long time. Educational opportunities, networking opportunities are all becoming more frequent. So these are all helping women basically hone and fine-tune their skills and put themselves out there.
So Tamara, if you were to consider how a company might enter the Saudi market, not being from this region, let's say somewhere else, say like the United States, what would be 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give?
I think working with someone local is important, because again, understanding how to do business in Saudi is different than it is elsewhere. But also understanding the geographical differences and how Saudi is split into regions. And each region is more focused on specific industries. So you need someone local to help you navigate that, especially at early stages. Again, understanding the local culture is extremely important, appreciating that local culture. Because again, for an outsider coming to the region, they see the whole region, like we said, as one big piece of geography, whereas even inside Saudi, you have those local cultures that you need to figure out and appreciate. Doing business in Saudi is different than doing business in the UAE or the rest of the GCC region. So understanding that is extremely important. Another thing about doing business in Saudi, as in the rest of the region, for someone coming from outside, when you asked the question, it reminded me of this one incident when we were together, I think, on the board of the Global Institute of Management Consulting Institutes, or was it the International Council? I can't remember anymore, to be honest. But one of the board members volunteered to put together a guide for doing business in the Middle East. And I remember looking at like the no's that were included in that guide, and I was like, that doesn't happen here. So again, talking to someone local, to a few local people, to validate what your perceptions of the region, the cultural nuances, the way business is done, etc., is also important. So make friends in the region before coming here, so that you can learn more rather than make the mistakes and offend someone, to be honest.
Yeah, and immerse yourself in the culture.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, definitely. Excellent advice. Thank you. So Tamara, thank you so much for agreeing to share your wisdom, your insights, your inspiration. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait for our next chat.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always fun to chat with you. And yes, I can't wait for the next one.
Okay, thanks. We hope today's conversation offered insights that you can use in your own journey. Subscribe for future episodes with global leaders, entrepreneurs, practitioners, emerging voices, and unexpected guests. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and turning grit into growth.